Hello and welcome to the second day of Reuters Events Transform USA. I'm Ed Long. I'm going to be your event host for today. On behalf of the Reuters Events team, we're delighted to have you here for day 2 of Transform USA. Yesterday, there were some great insights shared on topics such as delivering the sustainability transition, mobilizing suppliers, biodiversity and regeneration, net zero and conscious consumerism. You're in store for some more insights today on some incredibly important topics to helping us deliver a sustainable future. Before we get going, I'd just like to take a moment to thank all of our speakers that will be joining us today, as well as our incredible sponsors for helping support and build this year's event. Firstly, our official carbon offset partner, Silverterra, our associate sponsors, International Paper, Tillamook and Resonance Global, and our silver sponsors, the Metals Company, Schneider Electric, Guidehouse, and the Recycling Partnership. Be sure to check out our partner hub found at the top of the site to find out more about our amazing sponsors, their work, and get in touch with them. This morning, we're kicking off with a pretty stellar panel to start things off. We're going to be talking about circularity with Ikea, Levi, Strauss, Eileen Fisher, AB InBev, and Ellen MacArthur Foundation. I'm sure you can agree it's a very strong start to the day. During our live panels, we'd love for you to get involved, so do make the most of this time and ask questions of our speakers using the Q&A box to the right of this feed. If you have access to networking, start getting in touch with the other members of the audience and use this opportunity to connect with people that you really wouldn't do on a day-to-day basis and explore all your kind of core issues. But that's enough for me for the time being. I'm really excited to be able to hand over to our first panel on day 2, the Circular Economy Keynote, Scaling Up Ambitions. This is being led by Ashima Sukhdev, who's the program's lead for North America at Eileen Fisher Foundation. Over to you, Ashima.
Thank you so much, Ed, and good morning, everyone. As Ed said, my name is Ashima, and I work with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. We are a nonprofit with the mission to accelerate the transition to a circular economy, working with businesses, governments, and academia. We at the Foundation have the great pleasure to work with a number of the organizations that are represented on this panel today. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce our fantastic panelists to you now. So we have Eileen Fisher, who is the founder of Eileen Fisher. We have Javier Quiñones, who is the CEO of Ikea USA. We have Jeff Hogue, who is the Chief Sustainability Officer at Levi, Strauss & Co. And finally, Tony Milikin, who's the Chief Sustainability and Procurement Officer at AB InBev. So welcome to you all. As our audience might have picked up, we have a pretty great mix of industries represented here, and they're also all companies that really need very little introduction. A lot of us are probably interacting with your products in some way, and I think that's fantastic and actually makes this panel discussion and conversation much more tangible. So in the next hour or so, I'm hoping that we can really get into some of the details of what each of your companies are working on, your ambitions around a circular economy, and as Ed mentioned, audience, please do get involved. I will be taking questions throughout the panel, although I have plenty of my own. So just to get us started and to really ground the audience in what each of your organizations are doing, it seems to me that there's been a lot of companies that have come out with really big statements and pledges and commitments and so on circularity over the last year. But what I've really enjoyed learning about your organizations is actually just how much further than commitments and pledges you have all gone. So I thought we could get started just by each of you quickly sharing how each of your companies have actually quite deeply integrated the circular economy into your business. Let's maybe start off with Eileen. I'd love to hear from you on what is circular about Eileen Fisher.
Great. Well, thank you, Ashima. It's wonderful to be here with this prestigious panel. And yes, how we integrated circular. I'll start just kind of way back and hopefully keep it short. But I think that from the very beginning, the whole idea of the way we design simple, comfortable clothes, there's kind of a system approach. Always we use natural materials. So I believed that natural materials were biodegradable, so they were good for the environment. So over time, I began to learn, and others of us, that wasn't enough. And 25 years ago, we hired a head of social consciousness. And originally that work was about supporting the workers in the factories in Asia and like that. But within a few years, she was very, deeply involved in sustainability and, saw the link between the workers and sustainability, but also our work and how we were impacting, the world. And so, she did a lot of research, and over time, we just step by step started, weeding out conventional cotton to, be like 100% organic and organic linens and all those kind of things. She started working on chemistry in the dye houses, that kind of thing. She hired a head of sustainability. She hired a chemist eventually. But about, I think, 7 years ago or so, she organized a workshop which went across the whole company. We brought leaders from design, sales, and merchandising, advertising, business, procurement, sourcing, all of it. We brought about 30 leaders together and did a workshop and, sort of really embedded the thinking of what we wanted to do and got them really engaged. So I think that, and also it really inspired me, and I realized how important my leadership was at that point. And that's when we established our Vision 2020 commitment. And I realized that as a leader, I needed to give the organization and everyone permission to goal toward being 100% sustainable brand, which we are not by any means, but, to be able to say we're going to do this and get permission to do it, which actually, then began more questions, oh, well, this costs more, how are we going to do this? And can we afford to do that? And people started to align around those kind of decisions. And sometimes there were more costs, and sometimes it was just a little more work, and actually money was saved. So it was kind of, and then over time, just naturally, we got involved in the Take Back program. That was about 13 years ago, I think, when that started. And now we're doing much more around circular remaking, and there's a lot of stories to tell on that. And maybe I'll save that because I've overdone my
fantastic
time.
No, we'll definitely have time to get into that, and it's great to hear about some of those initiatives actually going quite far back. Javi, I'm going to come to you next with Ikea. So I guess picking up on the 100% theme, I know Ikea has made a pretty fantastic statement saying that you will be 100% circular by 2030, but you're also doing a lot today on circularity. So could you just give us a bit of an introduction to what Ikea is working on?
Absolutely. Thanks, Ashima, and great to be here and sharing this time with this great panelist. Yes, I agree. I think we really need to go back, and in Ikea, it's part of our DNA. I mean, we started with this long ago. So it's who we are, it's part of our values, and it's represented in everything we do. So let's say for us, it's not only what we do, but also how we do it, right? And every decision we take will be filtered through these glasses, right? It's not only about the what, but it's important that we take care of how we do it. We have committed, and we are committed, and we want to make it happen, actually. In 2030, we will be climate positive, and that includes circularity as one of the key legs for this strategy. I think for us, it's been so important that we have a clear strategy with clear goals and a clear statement, right? When are we going to get there? It's also quite aggressive compared to some other statements that, talk about 2050. And I keep saying the same, right? If you still don't have a good strategy, a good statement, a good commitment, then it's never too late, right? And it's a first step, it's a good step, right? And it's not about trying to make this so big that it's a mountain that you cannot climb, but at least decide what is the very first step that you can take. So for us, it's extremely important. It's part of our vision of creating a better life for many people. That was stated in the 70s, and probably today is more relevant than ever. And it guides us in all what we do. I started in Ikea many years ago, and we have this Assist corner, what we call opportunities, right? Where you can go and find these great products and at a lower price. And this has been with us since ever. This is probably the beginning of circularity, where a product that has been displayed in the store has been sold by a lower price, returned that the customer, for any reason, just didn't want the product anymore, then was back in the store, and then we will checking, making it 100% safe and sellable, and it's been sold. So it's not only good for the planet and taking care of the products, but it's also good business actually. And how we have been treating products right from the very beginning. Today, every IKEA product will be able to reassemble, resell, and will have hopefully a second life. We like to see the products like you have been with someone, a family, for a period of time. What if you have another possibility with another family to make the little dreams reality? And we're testing many things as we speak. We are looking now at what we call the circular hubs. So all these opportunities, assist corners, as we call it before, are becoming circular hubs actually, where we are also testing buyback furniture, so we can give a second opportunity by refurnish it and selling it again, and as I said, putting it back in people's home. So we are also testing in Europe leasing of products to make the products also available for many more that only needs the products for a short period of time. So exciting agenda that has been with us, and very good things for the future too.
Fantastic. That's great to hear. I actually saw some photos of a circular hub recently in IKEA, and it looked amazing. So congrats on that.
Yes, thank you.
And also I'm noticing some themes around take back across both your companies so far. I thought, Jeff, we could go to you next. So with Levi's, I actually recently read an article which titled Levi's wants you to stop buying so many jeans. So that to me suddenly sounds like circularity is quite integrated in your business model. Could you, again, just tell us a bit more about what Levi's is doing right now on circularity?
Yeah. So, what kind of resonates with me in this discussion so far is that we're talking about companies that have very strong values. And I think this type of work is pretty hard to do, but when you're working with companies that have very strong values and heritage, it makes it a little bit easier, I guess. In our case, it's quite interesting. You talked a bit about pledges and commitments, and I think that we've probably seen over the years that there's a lot of these out there. I think in the last 5 years, every couple of months, there's something new coming that we have to scrutinize. We have to determine whether it's something we want to sign up for. And our company, it's really difficult to sign up for everything. I think that it's, part of our values is that when we do sign up to something, we need to demonstrate performance and deliver. And so it's highly scrutinized, I would say, internally. The second point that I would just make before I talk about what we're doing is that as I was prepping for this panel last night, the title of this is integration and scaling, right? Or scaling, right? It's focused on scaling. And I think back, maybe 10 years ago, or maybe 5 or 10 years ago, for sustainability programs, just simply embedding and integrating, you could get scale. I think with the circular economy, it's like completely different. I think it's like a whole system that you have to work with, inside, outside, everywhere, unconventional, conventional, and which makes it quite challenging. And so to get scale, it's really hard, I think, especially in our industry. Nonetheless, we have been making progress, and, we've been pursuing circular practices in production, water reduction, recycling, more recycled inputs. As an example of scale for us, we have about 70% of our products are made with these, what we call waterless techniques, which are reducing water consumption significantly in the production. We're also designing for durability and circularity. I think you probably recognize that Levi's was built on durability. That's why we exist and why the brand exists. And so we have an actual integrated innovation platform called WellThread, which a lot of the sustainability innovations are actually developed there and then scaled. And you probably read recently that we launched a product called Circulose, which is a fully recycled post-consumer textile product into a new consumer textile products. And then another one is looking at new business models. We launched something called Levi Secondhand, which is a re-commerce platform. We also have tailor shops in our stores. So if you have products that are torn or broken that you want to fix, you can fix it there. And then lastly, you can see behind me, I have this thing called Buy Better, Wear Longer. That's probably what you were talking about, Ashima. Mm-hmm. That's our new platform for engaging consumers on consumption. And I think that we're reaching the point where we're willing to have the consumption conversation, which is a really tough thing for any company that sells products to have. And we want our consumers to come, along with us on the journey.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jeff, for that background. And we will touch on scale towards the end for sure. So Tony, coming to you, tell us about AB InBev. How has this beverage company incorporated circularity?
Well, I got to tell you, I'm blessed because I have a CEO and I have a board of directors that kind of see sustainability and circularity. It's kind of a gift. If you get an opportunity to listen to Carlos Brito, he constantly is telling you that sustainability is our business. And so when you have that from the top, it makes my job incredibly easy. It allows integration to happen and scalability. So I'm blessed in that manner. The second thing is that when you look at our business is very much about this Earth's capital, and it's natural. So the products that go into making beer, they come from agriculture. They're basically natural. The water we use, obviously, again, and then even our packaging, which is mostly all glass and aluminum, again, come from the earth. So and so it makes it a very simple story for us to kind of work within and scale and put through integration. I'll let you know this right up front. We've got upwards of 8 circular ventures that are in development. Some of the businesses are already kind of announced, and I'll get into that later on as we get progressing. But if you think about this, post-consumer waste, we can reuse it. So that makes that simple. It's easy to talk about, a little tougher to do. The second part is those agricultural products, as they come from what we call end of brewing life, have opportunities to upcycle. So, if we sell the cattle and pig farmers and things like that, we also know that there's protein there. And so it just makes total sense for us to figure out how to get that protein out. And there's a company called Evergrain, that's a fully owned subsidiary of ABI that's actually doing that. We've already putting in $100 million into that business. But we've already found out just on our post-brewing waste that there's over 20 million, we can feed 20 million people their protein requirements for a full year. So, there's a whole business aspect to it on top of doing really good things. The yeast after the fermentation, we know we can do things with that. They're really, really cool to help out vegans and say substitution for egg white. That's a big deal for vegans, right? If you now can have eggs, then you can actually, or an egg white substitute, you can do a lot of things in confectionery and in baking. So holistically, we look at everything as an opportunity. I'll give you one little one that kind of gets fun is we make non-alcoholic beers. Well, to make a non-alcoholic beer, you make a beer, but you extract the alcohol inside the beer to create a 0-0 beer. But that alcohol we used to use to flare off, or we would use it in our boilers to create heat. But now we actually know we can upcycle that into, say, hand sanitizers, or we can actually upcycle it even into other alcoholic products. So everything we look at in our company is 100%, we're looking at it as a circularity view. And by the way, I just want to include everybody in that's listening here today. When you think about sustainability and circularity, it costs less, all right? So if you want to talk to your board of directors or your CEO or board of management, they just need to understand that circular and sustainable products cost less. costs less for a recycled can. It costs a lot less for a recycled bottle. It costs less for recycled plastics. Renewable electricity costs less than other carbon-based electricity. So everything that we look at, we're looking in that type of prism.
That's fantastic, Tony, and actually brings me directly to our next theme, which is how you all kind of made the business case for circularity in your businesses, or how you kind of, all of your companies are really doing this today. So how did you get here? Tony, maybe let's just pick up directly back with you. And was it that easy? Was it basically saying, look, this is going to cost less, so let's do it? Or how did you make the case?
Let me just say, it wasn't easy. And the people that work with me know that I was tortured at the beginning. I mean, let's just be straight up. When you start to think about renewable electricity, most people think, and I'm talking about when you add capacity, that means new capital assets going in the ground. Most people just can't see how that can be cheaper than the conventional carbon-based electricity. And when you start going through that, you're looking for black swans. So people are trying to prove out, well, what happens if this happens? And as long as you start doing, say, a Monte Carlo or Black-Scholes type of optionality to find out that black swan is like, 5 nines off, then you can actually start winning these conversations. But I mean, let's just be straight up. If you take an aluminum can and now aluminum cans have a currency, a currency that if it goes into landfill, you lose money. When all of a sudden people start picking up those cans and start putting them in recycling, and we demanded as a company that our bottle and can makers use recycled glass, or what we call a cutlet, or reuse beer or beverage cans into the product. Now you start making that a currency. And so this is, when you say circular, it is 100% looking at it from a circular standpoint. Then I would say this, when you start having people think about the waste, and instead of going for certain things, can you make money? Right? Can you make money? I mean, we're getting ready to build a business, which I think is going to be a monster business, just on our post-brewing waste. I mean, that malt that comes out the back of our brewing process has protein, it has fiber, really cool protein. It's water soluble, it's tasteless. It's what some people in my organization call the Tesla of protein. Now you start really cooking. And so I think that's when you start looking at what Jeff has got in Levi's, you've got Javier looking over in Ikea, is how you make those businesses kind of run. I mean, I'd love to talk to Javi at some point in the future about his plant balls, the meatballs with plant-based protein in it, because I think we got the perfect protein for him. So, you look at these opportunities, and every time you're looking for a seed to be sown, and and I look at it this way: you plant enough seeds, you'll have a crop. And I'm taking too much time.
No, don't worry. Eileen, I wanted to come back to you, because you, as a founder, your story was probably quite different, in that you obviously had a clear vision, but you also had a team that was kind of driving circularity and sustainability forward. Were there a lot of people that you had to convince along the way that this was going to be a core part of your business?
Well, there were a few at certain points. But for the most part, it's kind of nice to have your name on the door and not have any investors. And for the most part, a lot of employees who are here because they're passionate about a lot of the work that we do. So for us, it probably wasn't nearly as difficult. But and for us, I think the whole circularity piece was kind of a natural next step to just who we are. And we start to see the waste in the system in our own closets, extra clothes, because we're in the business, so that's how the Take Back program actually started. But I think what was really interesting is what happened after that. So that started 12 or 13 years ago. And then, the resale piece, there's a definite money to be made in that business, and we've actually improved the way of doing it. We've got it happening online now too, which is fantastic. Anyway, that's a different topic. But what ended up happening is, I have a good question for, what's the name from Ikea? Anyway, but I'll ask you later. What I'm struggling with, sorry. Javier, that's right.
Javier.
Sorry. Anyway.
It's okay, no worries.
No, so what happened is then as we're taking everything back and reselling, and we have a percentage of product that we can't resell, but we're committed to not letting it end up in the landfill. So lots of creative effort has been spent over the last 5 or 6 years, because we found we had 3 warehouses full of stuff that we actually couldn't resell. And so I always love these kind of problems, because I always find creative solutions in the midst of the problems. But I just remember walking through one of the warehouses like, oh my God, what are we going to do with all this? Anyway, that's when one of my employees discovered this felt loom. And we have, over the years, developed this felting process, which is a process that's not new, but it's never been used for recycling garments, and especially in an upcycling kind of a way. So we've been, for the last 5 years, making pillows and wall pieces. You can see behind me to get a little taste of some of the kinds of things, and starting to work with architects. And now we have a line of little bags that we sell through our company. And what I love is this idea that we can actually upcycle. We can actually make something better than the pile of waste, and that has more value. We're still in a place where we're trying to figure out how to scale. Both that we have a sort of artisanal kind of operation, but we also have been studying the real scaling possibilities of this technology. So I think there's definitely, I had a business person coming through the factory the other day saying, we have like 3 businesses here. It's just a matter of investments. And, one of the things that really strikes me is that we can't do this alone. And so that's a different topic.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway. No, but I think what you've identified there is that circularity does bring in all sorts of different revenue streams, again, strengthening that business case, which is fantastic.
And you can hire more people without
exactly.
actually producing more virgin products.
Definitely. Fantastic. Javi and Jeff, I'll come to you both on, again, just this topic of the business case, and how, if either of you want to share just how you were able to convince stakeholders, Jeff, in your case as a publicly traded company, whether you had to convince investors, unlike others as well.
I think what's interesting is I think over the last couple of years, you see a tremendous uptick in the interest from investors. So, we're owned publicly, and we also have a family that owns part of the shares as well. And I think on both sides, there's a very strong interest in how we're delivering against this. We have a bit of a head start, I would say, in terms of selling it into the business. I think, our WealthThread platform was developed about 7 years ago. And, that was kind of a license to develop circular innovations within our product lines. I think that the other thing that's quite interesting is that if you look at the reports on the growth of like re-commerce, for instance, or the projected growth of re-commerce over time, I think the BCG secondhand report that came out, I think last year, said something like 15 to 20% increase between now and 5 years from now. And there's even reports that say that could be up to, $60 billion in the future. So that's definitely a driver to go in this direction. The other part of that, the other side of that is that, post-COVID, we're seeing that consumers are re-examining their consumption practices and re-examining things like buying products that are more durable and higher quality. So that definitely highly aligns with our brand and our business model. So I think that, it's shifting us from this kind of concept of license to operate to license to grow.
That's fantastic. Javi, anything you want to add there?
Yeah, I mean, in our case, I think it's, as I said before, it's part of who we are, right? It's a DNA. So honestly, I didn't have to convince anyone. in any case would have been the opposite, right? And it's not the case. I'm extremely committed to this anyway. But you know, I have the role of the CEO for Ikea in the US and the chief of the sustainability office, and that was a move that we did last year, actually September, I think it was, to make sure that this is an integrated part of our business, right? It's not a side, and that's probably how you start with the way of thinking. No, it's a side part of the business, and then you start doing things. Tony, I can see you laughing. So probably that's how everything starts, no? And then one day you realize this is actually who you are as a company. It needs to be part of your DNA, and that's what we do, right? It was from day one. There are a couple of myths I think that we need to stop, right? Like sustainability goes against profits. That's not true. That's totally false, actually. And when you do it in a good way, it can actually be, as my colleague said here, a super good source of revenue, right? By these problems, Eileen, I love the problems you mentioned, because the problems give us, the opportunity to be super creative in solutions. And we always say, these are the problems we love, right? Because when we have these problems, then we find the next generation of solutions that take us to a totally different place. Another one is you cannot grow and have a lower climate impact in your operations. And that's not true either. I think we came back last year, actually, we said we grow 6.5% and we reduce our impact in the planet on a 4.5%. So growing and reducing impact, investing in many different areas. So, I think just to add, this is a good business. The plant bowl, as you said, Tony, this is a super interesting one, but it has a 4% impact in the planet, 4% than what the meat bowl has. And this is an amazing contribution to this, right? And it's really about eliminating 100% the consumption of the meat bowl. It's about reducing it, and probably that's the first step, as I said before. It's not about 0 to 100 from one day, but it's what is the first step that we can do now, right?
Yeah.
I did my first training on sustainability in Ikea more than 20 years ago when I was a part-time coworker, and it was a mandatory training that we all needed to go through. So again, it's really about making it part of who you are.
Absolutely. I think all of your stories so far have been such a great inspiration to those that are just getting started or kind of working within a company where they don't know how to move this forward. So thank you also for dispelling those myths.
Ashima, I'd also like to, because Javi came in on some really good points, but I think what's really cool, and I think Javi will probably kind of back me up on this, is once you start this journey, it's like a flywheel. And the flywheel starts slow, but I mean, as you do it, the whole company wants to jump onto it. And as you look at the generations, the new generation of talent that are coming into the companies, they're demanding that. So it's almost like you start the flywheel and it just keeps getting faster and faster and bigger. And for us, that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing that the whole AB InBev is involved in it, whether it's a brand. Like I'll give you an example. Corona just came out with a challenge right now with the 100 Plus Accelerator. The 100 Plus Accelerator is Unilever, Coca-Cola, Colgate-Palmolive, and ABI looking for sustainable startups to solve problems. But now a brand manager says, I want my brand out here trying to solve plastics in the ocean, because the ocean and the beach is so important to Corona. So you get these things. All of a sudden now you got brand management in it. So this flywheel just gets bigger and bigger and faster. And I think that's what Javi was kind of leading to.
That's amazing. I love that story. I did want to just scale out a little bit and talk about, again, we have 3 different industries represented on this panel, circularity being applied in some similar, but some quite different ways. I think maybe let's chat about the fashion industry first, and with Jeff and Eileen, and what you're seeing. There seems to be a bit of that flywheel of activity in the fashion industry right now. So any reflections you have on what you're seeing in fashion, and if there's any interesting collaborations going on in the industry that you'd like to highlight, would love to hear some of that too.
Yeah. Well, certainly the last few years, there's been a lot more interest in general in sustainability, and in general in take back programs. You see a lot more of that kind of thing. You know, we're very interested in partnering for sure. You know, I know there are a lot of different organizations my teams belong to. We've partnered behind the scenes with Patagonia and different projects, regenerative agriculture. You know, there are many different ways. I'm interested in what Levi's is doing. The circulose. Is that, yeah, that, can we partner on that? What are you doing there? Because we have still fabrics where we need to find solutions with others. And like we have a really interesting solution for wool, if anybody wants to partner with us on that, you know. But we'd like to see, you know, I think that it's almost like we talk about pre-consumer, pre-competitive partnering, but I think now we're in the like post-consumer partnering. How do we partner in the waste streams to solve the problems?
Yeah, that's a really great point. I mean, I think what we're talking about here is something like unconventional collaboration, you know, where we understand that the sum of the parts is better than just one brand or one company going forward. And by the way, we're not making iPhones here. We're making clothes, so it's not that complicated. What I would say, I would echo what you said, Eileen, in terms of this acceleration of initiatives. And I think that for me, there are really three things, and three things that really inspire us and create the spirit of collaboration. I think the first one probably started with Bill Mcdonough. I think that some of you might know him. He was one of the authors of Cradle to Cradle, but he's been around working in a lot of different industries on circular solutions, including the fashion industry. And he was the inspiration for a lot of the stuff that Ellen MacArthur Foundation is working on. The second one would be Ellen MacArthur Foundation. I mean, for me, the new textile economy, make fashion circular, vision for circular economy and fashion, those three documents, if anyone's listening in the fashion industry, those are the key documents that everyone should understand, know, and read, because what they're doing actually is inspiring companies to move forward with their programs, but also it's actually influencing regulatory developments and rulemaking, especially like in Europe with the circular economy package and the new Green Deal and those types of things. It's very influential. And the last one is, and my favorite one is Fashion for Good. It's kind of a collaborative platform to scale and accelerate circular technologies by bringing, a lot of different players together in one room to pilot, to work together, to create this kind of economy of scale. And so those models, I think, for Indian industry, if people wanted to get a good understanding of a good approach that could be transferable to any industry, I think all of those would be pretty interesting. And the last thing I would say, and I know I'm a little bit long, but going back to this unconventional collaboration, for me, it's not just collaborating with the apparel industry and our kind of the normal actors. It's like how does Levi collaborate with Ikea or AB InBev or Tesla? How do we collaborate to find these solutions that we can't find within our own box?
Absolutely, Jeff. I think that's a fantastic point, and I would love to see how those unconventional collaborations will come to fruition, maybe from this panel. I'm actually kind of fixated now on AB InBev's plant protein being used in the IKEA meat plant balls. But Tony and Javi, are you doing any crazy cross-industry collaborations? What's your approach to collaborations as companies been so far?
I'll let Javi go first. I mean, I'll be happy to go if you want me to go, Javi.
Go ahead, Tony.
Okay, so cross industry, I just mentioned one earlier, the 100 plus sustainability accelerator. what's going on right there is very simple. Coca-Cola, Unilever, and Colgate-Palmolive, along with AB InBev, we're cross-industry. Like there's some commonality between us and Coca-Cola and beverages, and there's some commonality with Colgate and Unilever as they have some things that they compete against. But when you look at our similar problems, we've got water, we've got post-consumer waste, we've got plastics, we have all these things that we have to work on to hit the SDGs and hit our own internal sustainability commitments. But the interesting part is we all know we can't do it by ourselves. So it's really a massive crowdsourcing activity, because I have a firm belief that the future is here somewhere on Earth. We just don't all know about it. So all 4 companies are global. If you think about it, I mean, if you think about Colgate-Palmolive, I think they're in about 65% of all households around the world. Everybody knows and drinks Coca-Cola, whether you're in Africa or whether you're in the US. Same thing with ABI and Unilever. So now we've come together and we're commonly looking at what those challenges are for us, and we're crowdsourcing. And the anticipation is we had 1,700 startup proposals a year ago. And when we invest in a certain amount of those startups, we put them into pilots with each one of the companies. And then those companies have an opportunity to actually see if it's scalable. And at that point in time, we provide them a contract that allows them now to have banking to come in, or VCs to invest, and then allow them to scale up. We think this is a huge winning opportunity. And we also believe it's really going to change the collaborative viewpoints of large companies like Unilever, Coca-Cola, Colgate-Palmolive, and AB InBev. And by the way, we're open for more to join us. We just want to make sure that we are all addressing or have the same kind of challenges. But we think this is the one way that the consumer and the actual manufacturer, us, and our suppliers have a skin in the game, and actually get to direct and create the sustainable environment that we all want. So it's a really cool thing, and I hope we have an opportunity to discuss that in the future even more, because I think it's going to be, in a weird way, it's going to be a reality TV type thing. I mean, where we're actually going to think about it. All around the world, you're piloting and testing new opportunities, and then bringing that content to life, because that's what you're doing with contracts. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Great. Javier?
Thank you.
Yeah, I think collaborations and partnerships are crucial, and especially when we need to accelerate some of the things, right? And of course, it's easy to look at the operations, and I think the plant board is a good example, no? Where we look at the different sources. It's not that we have all the answers, but we know, that there are many startups, companies, others that are experts in the field. One of the biggest contributions of Ikea to climate change is on deliveries, right? And we have in partnership or partnering with many companies. I'm so happy that officially now I can say that we do all the last mile deliveries in New York with electric vehicles. It's going to happen in LA by the end of the summer, and in the whole of the US by 2025. That only happens through collaboration and partnership with others. Even government, right? One of the big issues we have when we do these deliveries is that we don't have the infrastructure in place to make that happen. So even sometimes, even if you want to make it happen, it's not that it's so easy. And then you need again to partner with others and everyone. I think for us also, we're so lucky that we do what we do. First, I love design and home furnishing, and I see a piece of furniture and I love it, and you can even smell it. Actually, it sounds a bit freak, but it's part of my passion, right?
We get you.
Yeah. Thank you for the support there. But we are in people's home, and this is beautiful, right? We enter the most private place that any person has, and for us this is so crucial. So this is the best partnership we can have, right? How we can support all these people living at home in a more sustainable way, inspire people. We have set in our goals, 1 billion people needs to be inspired by IKEA in living more sustainable. And then the plant balls play its game. You can have a kitchen that is, the front doors are done by recycling plastic material, the one I have actually. And, you know, I know that this is a beautiful product, but on top of that, it was taking care of planet and many things, LED and millions of other examples. So I see partnerships everywhere from the basic to impact and influencing regulations actually.
It's such an opportunity area and it's really beautiful to hear in a way. I think I want to draw in a couple of audience Q&As. This actually touches on one of them, which is you're all very much consumer-facing businesses. You're in people's homes. People are wearing your products, drinking them. How have you brought your consumers along on this journey? There was one sort of asking, do we need to change consumer behavior to scale up circular economy, or is it kind of changing around us already? So just any reflections, and folks feel free to jump in on that point.
Yeah, I think we are, we've been working to educate the customer about what we're doing and about what they can do. And some of it is bringing their clothes back, encouraging them to clean their closets and shop more consciously, really think about what they need, sort of buy less, maybe buy better, we think it's better, but, but I think, and I think there's so many things that the consumers can do, from how they clean their clothes. There's a lot of impact. But we're not as far along as I wish we were in terms of educating. We have a lot of information on our website. And before COVID, we were starting to do workshops in our stores, to help customers understand about, the fashion industry and the impact and what they can do. But with COVID, we sort of stopped all of that, which is a different conversation. We didn't get to the COVID issue and all the things we recognized, and I don't know if we will, but I think it's really important to educate the consumers. I think there's a huge opportunity there to have impact.
And maybe I can riff on that because I think it's a great point. I think the other thing that we could possibly do is just make it easy, right? And where there isn't an obvious choice when you come in to make a purchasing decision. The brand or the company that you're buying from has actually already made the right decision for the consumer. Because, if you look at it, there's a huge spectrum of consumers and understanding of these topics. I mean, circular economy is a very complex scientific topic, right? It's hard to communicate. Sustainability is very complex to communicate to consumers. And so I think it is a combination of both, but at least in our mind, how we're thinking about our new approach is to engage the consumer on the journey with us and to be humble and to learn and to fail fast and to use it as a way to, create a bit of a movement on consumption within our company. And I think that, one of the things that I mentioned at the beginning that I think is really important is that, getting scale on some of these things like secondhand, e-commerce, rental, peer-to-peer is super hard to do, right? And it's not something that one company can solve in a couple of seasons. It's something that we need to start small and build the economy of scale over time, but don't give up on it. And that's something that we're taking to heart internally. And so that would be a way that our customers can actually engage with our brand and engage in the circular economy in a way that's easy for them to do it. So I like what Eileen said, and I think it's a combination of, it's so complex, it's a combination of so many things that we need to do to engage consumers and bring them together with us on the journey.
But Jeff, I just wanted to say that it's just really meaningful what we're trying to do, and all of us. And I think that does engage the consumer. It also engages the employees, and then they want to talk about it. They want to tell the customers about it, and I think that
they're our ambassadors. They're our ambassadors. They're the ones that are meeting with the consumers every day and explaining what we're doing and how this is a better choice. So I think I totally agree with you on that. It's really important.
Their work and their lives feel like they're doing meaningful work, and it matters. That's good.
Hey, Ashima, what we do in our company is pretty cool. We actually allow the brands to talk directly to the consumer. So think about Budweiser. There's we estimate 45 million 12-ounce Budweisers are consumed every day. So that's, in a weird way, we think of it as 45 million times we can actually communicate directly to the consumer. Nobody would have ever thought that there would be a company talking about renewable electricity in the Super Bowl, but Budweiser did it 2 years ago, right? And so Budweiser for us is the most iconic brand around the world, and then we allow the brand then speaks to renewable electricity. If you think about Stella with Matt Damon and some of the things we do is all about water and water conservation, and how do we make water available to people that don't have water, right? And so each one of the brands, I just talked to you a little earlier about Corona. Corona's got a whole platform on how do we save the ocean? How do we take the plastic out of the ocean? Because if you think about it, the ocean's the reason we're here on Earth. I mean, if you think about every other breath of oxygen we breathe comes from the ocean. So a healthy ocean's there. So there is a plan. Our chief marketing officer wants every brand to have a purpose and talking around sustainability and circularity. And so that's how we're breathing it directly to the consumer. And it seems to be working.
Great.
So for us, Ashima, very quickly, but for us, as I said before, to help people to live more sustainable, for us, it's extremely crucial, right? And one thing is to make our operations to have no impact on the planet or even positive, as we have stated. But another thing is, this is a game for everyone. And we cannot look at our neighbor to, you will do something about it. This is the end of this. This is gone. This is out of the agenda. Everyone needs to contribute to this. So I think for us as brands, it's so important that we inspire people. We teach what can be done and how I can take this very first step, right? This can be super complex. When you ask people, are you interested, or is it important for you, sustainability? Everyone says yes, or almost everyone. Then when you ask the question, do you know how to create, or start changing some habits so your impact in the planet will be a bit better? Then the answer is not that straightforward. And I think we have such an important role, especially in Ikea. Actually, I see Ikea as one of the big brands to take responsibility on this, because we enter in people's life, and we need to be part of this journey. So absolutely a key role in this.
That was super insightful, and I'm really glad the question on employee engagement and inspiring them, and then them in turn inspiring others came up, because that was another audience question. We don't have much time left, which is such a shame, but I think it'd be a shame not to touch on the impact of the pandemic, as Eileen was alluding to, and to just really better understand, and we can keep this quite short, but how your circular economy initiatives in the last year have been impacted, if they withstood the crisis, if they came out stronger. This might be a leading question, but just very quickly, if you could share a few words on that would be great.
I can go
sure.
Very, very quickly. For us, as I said before, it's 2030 is the year where we are going to be climate positive. And that means that we have until 2030 to make that happen. And hopefully we will do it before. So our commitment is intact. And even during the pandemic, we kept all our investments. We have such a big portfolio already in the US, 2 wind farms, 2 solar farms, 3 forests that we own. And all our roof in the stores are 98% of them actually, with solar panels. And we keep investing, as I said, in EV and also in all the circular initiative, as I said. So it is for us, again, super, super important. And pandemic has accelerated many of these things, because we also see a big shift and movement in society that gives lots of hope, actually, in connecting with brands that have this agenda stronger than ever. So intact and stronger, I would say.
Fantastic.
I would say, oh, sorry, Eileen, why don't you go?
I was just going to say that, well, the pandemic was created a kind of real stopping point for us. So it made us kind of relook, and Jeff, you were talking about the systems and the whole, we really rethought everything about the way we design clothes and the whole system, reduce the number of fabrics. We did a lot of kind of transformational work around our business that contributes to our circular thinking and our sustainability thinking, and are coming out stronger on the other end on that work. We did have some places where it was a little tricky. We had to cut back our staff and some of our, our business plans and all of that. And so, but our Renew Business Thrive, that's the Take Back program, did even better during this time. And our Third Life program has been a little trickier to keep supporting, but we're very committed, and we will, and that's where we need partners, more partners. So that's one of the things that I really realized during this time, again, this partnership.
Oh, great. Jeff?
And I would say, I would echo what Javi and Eileen said. I think that for us, pretty much all of the acceleration of our consumer-facing circularity initiatives happened during the pandemic. So I think all of them, including our partnership with Fashion for Good. So for us, it's pretty much the same, that we're understanding that consumers are looking at their consumption patterns a little bit differently. They're trying to make different types of decisions and change their behavior, and we wanted to be right kind of in that trend as well. And maybe it's not even a trend, maybe it's just the future of fashion. Could be like this going forward. We hope. I see you crossing your fingers, Eileen. Yeah. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, definitely. Consumption thing.
Fantastic. Tony, how's InBev?
I'll do it real quick because time, and you might want to say some other things, but I couldn't be more proud of Anheuser-Busch InBev from around the world. I mean, there were certain places around the world we were shut down because we're an alcohol producing company, and certain countries just shut us down, but we didn't shut down as a company in those areas. We started looking at other things. So whether it was producing hand sanitizer, we're the first out there that changed our brewing process to make hand sanitizers or alcohol for it. Then taking our equipment and making masks. So most of the PPE was over in Asia. Well, we brought it into South America, Central America, and even the US by converting equipment over. If you think about the shields for medical staffs and things like that, we started making those. If you think about helping out some of our friends and other CPGs, we started using our trucks to be able to help them move things around. Emergency water. Instead of making beer, we were making canned water and shipping that to places that couldn't get water, clean water. So all in all, I couldn't be prouder of the company under such a really tough place. Plus, keep our business running and getting ready to come back as the vaccine's here, and there's a little bit of euphoria and happiness coming, and so we want to participate in that also. Yeah, I'd say overall, the whole sustainability and circularity, I think because of the pandemic, it's even heightened. I think there's a bigger sense of awareness that this is a precious time, and we only have so much time on this earth, so let's make the best of it.
Great. I'm going to squeeze in one last question, and this is kind of a one word or one initiative answer from all of you, if that's okay. But the title of the session was obviously scale. Which of your initiatives should we be watching out for next, or which one is going to scale the most?
I got two words. The 100 plus accelerator is one, and then this evergreen protein, which is the Tesla protein.
Great.
Those are two. Massive.
I would say our felting project, it's called Waste No More.
Great.
I would say renewable energy and supporting people's life at home.
Great.
I don't need to say it. It's right behind.
We'll read it. Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for this panel that flew by completely. I thoroughly enjoyed hearing both your origin stories of circularity, but also where you're all headed. Thanks for keeping it very lively and honest, and for sharing all of those perspectives. Circularity certainly sounds like it's here to stay and to scale as well. So over to you, Ed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashima. And as well, thank you to you as well, Ashima, for hosting that discussion this morning. What a fantastic way to start the day with such an important topic and an incredible lineup as well. So thank you all for joining. Thank you, Javier, Jeff, Eileen, Tony, and as well, Ashima as well, again. And as well, we had a lot of questions come in. So thank you all for that. Please, we'd love to keep that engagement up throughout the day. So please do keep asking your questions and using that live Q&A feature that we've got next to the screen. Next up, we've got another exciting panel hosted by one of our sponsors, the Recycling Partnership. Executives from the Recycling Partnership will be joined by Systemic and Walmart, and the discussion will be led by the Retail Industry Leaders Association. They'll be unveiling a free circularity tool to help you inform your plastic packaging strategy. Enjoy.